Hello, deep divers. All right, strap in because today we are diving pretty much headfirst into a story that sounds, well, less like archaeology and maybe more like a pitch for the next big adventure movie.
Huh. Yeah, it really does have that feel.
So back in March 2025, the internet just lit up with whispers, actually, more like shouts of this mind-boggling discovery, potentially hidden right beneath one of the most famous landmarks on planet Earth, the Khafre Pyramid at Giza.
It's genuinely hard to get your head around, isn't it? I
Mm.
mean, we've poked and prodded at the Giza Plateau for centuries. People have been studying it forever.
Right.
And then kind of out of the blue, this Italian-Scottish research team announces they found something absolutely colossal, something underneath Khafre's pyramid.
Exactly. And their claims, I mean, we're talking massive underground shafts, huge mysterious chambers, maybe even whispers of an entire underground city. The sheer audacity of the idea is incredible. And this is precisely why we're doing this deep dive. We've got a whole stack of sources here about this team's big announcement. So our mission today is to try and figure out, is this a monumental, history-altering find? Or, with all due respect,
Mm.
could this be a bit of a high-tech tall tale?
That is absolutely the central question. I mean, it sets a fantastic adventurous stage, but like you said, we need to approach it with a critical eye, really guided by what the sources actually contain.
Okay, let's unpack this, maybe starting with the dramatic moment itself. So our sources tell us this team held a press conference, right, March 15th, 2025, and just dropped a bombshell report. What specifically did they claim to have found lurking below all that sand and stone?
The claims were incredibly precise, almost cinematic, like you said.
Yeah.
They reported detecting 8 vertical cylindrical shafts directly beneath the Khafre pyramid.
8 shafts, okay.
And the dimensions they gave were truly staggering. Each shaft was supposedly 640 meters deep.
640 meters. Wait, that's over half a mile straight down. Just picturing that is wild.
It is.
And they weren't tiny little holes either, were they?
No, not at all. They described the shafts as being 10 to 12 meters wide.
Hmm.
I mean, that's the width of a pretty substantial room with what they called spiral patterns along the walls, sort of like giant corkscrews boring into the Earth's crust.
Wow. Okay, spiral patterns.
And according to their findings, these colossal shafts connect the pyramid's base to 2 enormous, hollow cubic chambers located even further down.
So massive, deep holes leading into big, empty boxes underground.
Okay,
But they didn't stop the claims there, did they? This is where the story really takes a turn into the fantastical.
indeed. Yeah, this is where they claim to have detected a sprawling network of cavities lying even deeper at a depth of 1,200 meters.
1,200 meters, that's a full 3/4 of a mile underground.
And their speculation on what this might be, well, it's raced from an underground city to, yes, the mythical Hall of Records.
The Hall of Records, okay, right there. That immediately brings up Atlantis, hidden ancient knowledge.
Yeah.
The whole 9 yards. It sounds like finding a secret trapdoor in your floor, but instead of finding, I don't know, dusty board games from the 70s,
Right?
you potentially uncover an ancient metropolis or a library of forgotten wisdom.
Okay,
I mean, the
that-
sheer scale they're proposing 3/4 of a mile down, it's almost unbelievable.
It's definitely a claim designed to generate headlines, and it certainly did that. But the immediate crucial question that follows is, how exactly did they manage to see all of this, especially at those depths, without, putting a shovel in the ground?
Right, exactly. Because Giza isn't exactly known for letting people just start digging randomly, is it? They claimed they used some kind of super advanced technology, didn't they?
They did. They described their method as combining synthetic aperture radar, or SAR, with seismic micromotion analysis. They've dubbed it SAR-SP.
Okay, SAR-SP. For those of us whose eyes just glazed over a little bit there, what exactly are we talking about? Can you break that down?
Sure, think of SAR like an advanced form of radar. It's really great at creating detailed images, often from satellites or planes, basically by bouncing waves off the surface.
Right.
The seismic part involves listening to incredibly tiny vibrations, like the Earth's subtle heartbeat or tremors. The team used analogies like tapping a wall to find a stud, but scaled up hugely.
Right.
Or imagine you're at a massive concert and try and figure out what's in a sealed box on stage, just by the way the bass vibrations cause things to rattle subtly around it.
Okay, I think I get the concept.
They claim this technique allowed them to map these structures with remarkable clarity at these staggering depths. And interestingly, they apparently originally developed this tech for a completely different purpose, studying volcanic magma chambers.
Volcanic magma chambers, huh? They're deep, obviously, but I'm guessing studying a hot fluid pocket is maybe different from mapping solid rock and potentially empty spaces.
You'd think so, yes.
And here's where we need to bring in that healthy skepticism we talked about. What do other experts in these fields actually say about the tech penetrating to 1,200 meters? Because that sounds ambitious.
Ambitious is putting it mildly. This is where the claim hits a major roadblock, according to our sources. The overwhelming consensus from the wider scientific community is that standard radar and seismic methods simply do not have that kind of penetration depth.
Okay, so what are we talking usually?
Well, typically we're talking meters, maybe tens of meters,
Okay.
in incredibly optimal conditions, say 30 meters, maybe 100 feet at the absolute most.
30 meters versus 1,200 meters. Wow, that's not just a difference. That's a different zip code entirely.
It really is.
Mhm.
Yeah, experts have compared the claim to saying you can perform a detailed X-ray of someone's internal organs using like a flashlight
Right.
or seeing through a mile-thick concrete wall with binoculars. It just doesn't quite track. Radar waves and seismic vibrations, you see, they get absorbed and scattered by the rock and sediment layers as they travel downwards.
Makes sense.
The signal degrades dramatically with depth. So trying to get clear data from 1,200 meters with this kind of tech, based on known physics,
Mhm.
it's highly, highly questionable.
And adding to the skepticism, I feel like there's something else.
Well, a critical piece is missing. The team hasn't yet released their full raw data. Nor have they published a detailed peer-reviewed paper explaining the specific methodology that supposedly allows their SAR-SPA tech to achieve such unprecedented depths. And until that data is available for independent analysis, the scientific community remains, understandably, highly skeptical.
Okay, that's a big hurdle. Before we dig deeper into the legitimacy question, let's just make sure we're all clear on the structure at the center of this whole claim. The Khafre pyramid itself, I mean, it's not the absolute largest at Giza, but it's instantly recognizable, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. Built around 4,500 years ago for Pharaoh Khafre. He was the son of Khufu, the guy who built the Great Pyramid.
Right.
Khafre's pyramid is just slightly smaller at the base than Khufu's, about 215 meters compared to 230. But, and this is clever, it's built on a bedrock platform about 10 meters higher.
Okay.
So visually, it appears almost as tall. It was originally about 143 meters high, and today stands around 136 meters. That's roughly the height of a, 40-story skyscraper.
So still absolutely massive. And it has that really iconic look because of what's left at the top.
Exactly. It's the only one of the major Giza pyramids that still retains a significant portion of its original outer casing of smooth, polished white limestone right up near the apex.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing that cap really makes you imagine how all the pyramids might have looked originally, just gleaming under the sun like these giant glowing white triangles.
That must have been an incredible sight from miles away. Just
Yeah.
wow. What's the interior like compared to the Great Pyramid? Is it as complex?
Much simpler, actually. Khafre's pyramid has one main burial chamber, known as the King's Chamber. It contains a truly enormous granite sarcophagus. Oh, yeah. Sources mention that carving this sarcophagus from a single block of granite would have been an absolutely brutal task. Experimental archaeologists, using ancient methods, estimate it might have taken about a decade of nonstop work just for that one box.
A decade. Just for the stone box. Wow. And you mentioned unfinished chambers inside, too.
There's also an unfinished side chamber within the pyramid, yeah. It's sealed up, and we don't entirely know why. Maybe they hit a deadline, or perhaps, like many of us, they just ran out of budget before they could finish it.
Huh. A truly ancient and relatable problem. And the entrances are a bit snug, right? I remember reading that.
Very snug.
Yeah.
Khafre's pyramid has two narrow entrances, one at ground level made of limestone, and another about 12 meters up made of red granite. And the passages inside are quite tight, meaning you'd have to crouch pretty low to move through them. Definitely not designed with modern accessibility standards or claustrophobes in mind.
Not built for tall folks, then. Any widely accepted theories on why they'd have two narrow entrances like that?
Well, some theories are practical. Maybe one was used during construction while the other was the official one, or perhaps they served different functions during the whole burial process.
Okay.
Others suggest more symbolic or spiritual reasons, maybe representing different paths for the pharaoh's physical remains and his soul's journey to the afterlife, covering all the bases.
Speaking of the pharaoh, let's touch briefly on Khafre's place in the ancient Egyptian royal family. Sounds like there was maybe a bit of a complicated family tree situation.
Oh, absolutely. The Old Kingdom dynasties could give any modern reality show a serious run for its money. Khafre was one of Khufu's many sons. Khufu had a large family, apparently from multiple wives. Succession wasn't necessarily guaranteed to the eldest living son.
Ah, okay. So plenty room for drama then.
Definitely. The initial intended heir, who was Khafre's older brother Kawab, actually died before his father. The throne then briefly went to another brother, Jadefri, before Khafre eventually took power. There are some fringe theories out there, naturally, about potential foul play or maybe a Game of Thrones-style power grab during this period. Though, to be clear, there's no solid evidence to back those up in the archaeological record.
Right.
It certainly makes for compelling ancient gossip, though.
Always fun to speculate. And the Great Sphinx, that famous giant Catman statue,
Yeah.
that's often linked to Khafre, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Many archaeologists believe the Sphinx was commissioned during Khafre's reign, and there's a pretty strong theory that its face is actually modeled after Khafre himself.
So the pharaoh potentially commissioned a 66-foot-tall stone statue of himself to sit right next to his pyramid complex. That's confidence on a truly colossal scale. Talk about a next-level selfie.
You might say he wasn't exactly shy about his image, no.
All right, let's get back to the present-day claim.
Yeah.
So we've got the team claiming not just these incredibly deep shafts and chambers, but also, 5 more cavities near the base of the pyramid?
That's right, 5 additional anomalies near the base.
And they're linking the deepest network to the mythical Hall of Records. So, based on the sources and the reactions you mentioned, what's the general feeling from the established community? Is this looking legit at all?
Well, based on the sources and the reactions from mainstream experts, and especially the Egyptian authorities, the overwhelming response seems to be one of deep skepticism, if not, well, outright dismissal.
Ouch. That's a pretty strong reaction. Why is the pushback so firm? What are the main reasons?
There are several key reasons. First, as we talked about, the claimed depth and scale of the discovery, this network 1,200 meters down, are simply unprecedented. They just don't align with decades of extensive surveys and excavations on the Giza Plateau. The idea that something that massive could have gotten completely undetected is highly improbable to many.
Right, you'd think someone would have noticed something.
Exactly. Second, immediately linking it to something like the Hall of Records myth. Well, that firmly places it in the realm of fringe theories for most academics, which, let's be honest, is about as grounded as believing your cat is secretly plotting world domination.
Okay, good point. How did the Egyptian authorities themselves react? What was their official stance?
Our sources indicate they were notably unimpressed. Very unimpressed. They stated very clearly that the team did not obtain the necessary permits to conduct any kind of scanning work on the site.
Whoa, okay, no permits. That's huge.
It is, yeah. Archaeological sites in Egypt are very strictly controlled, as you expect. An official, who was quoted in one source and described only as very unimpressed, the source couldn't verify the name, stated the findings were completely baseless.
So not just skeptical, but actively saying, nope, nothing was found, and you didn't even have permission to look in the first place. Wow.
Exactly. And their stance is really bolstered by decades of prior work at Giza that found nothing even remotely resembling this. Other experts quoted expressed significant doubt, not just about the technology's ability to penetrate to such depths, but crucially, its ability to reliably distinguish between a man-made structure and natural geological features.
Like caves or something.
Precisely. Existing caves, voids, or figures in the limestone bedrock. At that depth, the signal resolution would likely be very poor. It's like trying to tell if a smudge on your glasses is dirt or a scratch without taking them off. It's just incredibly difficult to interpret faint signals from that deep underground.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's talk about the team themselves for a second. Who are the key players behind this Khafre project?
The project seems to be primarily led by 3 individuals mentioned in the sources. There's Professor Clarido Moranga from Italy, described as an expert in radar and cosmology.
Radar and cosmology, okay.
Dr. Filippo Biondi from the University of Strathclyde in Scotland, who specializes in geophysics and computer science.
Geophysics, computer science.
And Dr. Amato May, who is listed as an archaeologist with knowledge of ancient civilizations.
Okay, so a mix of scientific backgrounds, but only one dedicated archaeologist right at the forefront of what is fundamentally an archaeological claim.
That's a point that was noted in one source as potentially raising a few questions, sort of like having a team composed mostly of, say, chefs and mechanics trying to perform heart surgery. They might have brilliant technical skills in their areas, but maybe not the core expertise needed for this specific archaeological context.
And there's a detail about one of the leaders that, let's just say, adds a little extra flavor to the whole narrative.
Yes, that's right. It's mentioned in the sources that Professor Morenga, the radar and cosmology expert, also has a particular side interest, or perhaps even a professional interest, in the study of UFOs and extraterrestrial phenomena.
Okay, I have to admit, when you're announcing you found a 3/4 of a mile deep potential underground city beneath the pyramid, and one of your lead guys is also actively studying UFOs, it adds a certain je ne sais quoi to the credibility question, doesn't it?
Certainly doesn't help manage the widespread skepticism, no.
It's like finding out your dentist is also a part-time ghost hunter. You might just pause before they start drilling.
Yeah, it's an unusual combination in this context. Now, to be fair, the team did publish a paper on their specific SARS-BA technology about 3 years before this announcement. It was peer-reviewed, yes, but described in the sources as relatively rough.
Rough, okay.
And as we said, they've promised to share more detailed data related to the Giza findings. But until that actually happens, well, many in the academic world are holding their breath and maybe raising a skeptical eyebrow.
It really is fascinating how these ancient wonders constantly intersect with cutting-edge technology and, well, let's just say eclectic personal interests. But the core idea, the idea of finding something hidden, that resonates with all of us, doesn't it? You mentioned finding a secret basement earlier,
Yeah,
that excitement of unexpected discovery.
absolutely. I mean, on a small scale, finding a hidden room or a secret compartment during a home renovation is genuinely thrilling. So the concept of an entire underground complex beneath one of the world's most studied structures, it taps into that same deep human fascination with mystery and discovery, just amplified, beyond measure.
And the Giza Plateau itself isn't just a solid block of rock all the way down, is it? There are natural features under there, right?
Precisely. The bedrock is primarily limestone, and the area is known to have natural caves, fissures, and voids. So the possibility of finding some sort of previously unknown space isn't inherently impossible. Not at all. We've even seen other projects confirm hidden spaces within the pyramids themselves.
Oh, right, like the Scam Pyramids project in the Great Pyramid a few years back.
That's a perfect example. That project used non-invasive techniques like muon tomography. You can think of muons as subatomic particles from cosmic rays acting like giant X-rays. And they did detect a large, previously unknown void inside the Great Pyramid structure. So yes, hidden spaces can exist.
But again, the crucial difference here is the scale that the Khafre team is claiming, isn't it?
That is the absolute critical distinction. The Scam Pyramid's void was significant, yes, but nothing on the scale of 10-meter wide shafts dropping 640 meters down, or networks 3/4 of a mile deep. That's really the difference between finding, say, a secret closet or an attic space in your house,
Uh-huh.
and suddenly discovering you somehow have a complete multi-level subway system running under your backyard.
Yeah.
It's just orders of magnitude different.
It also makes you think about the history of exploring Khafre's pyramid itself. Wasn't it first really explored properly relatively recently in
Right.
archaeological terms?
Yes, that's right. The King's Chamber was first properly entered by the Italian explorer Giovanni Belzoni way back in 1818.
1818. And after all that effort, what did he actually discover inside that massive granite sarcophagus?
Well, it was empty, except for a few cow bones.
Cow bones. Seriously. After breaking into a pharaoh's pyramid, talk about a historical letdown of truly epic proportions.
Right. You spend all that time, energy, and considerable risk, and you get ancient livestock leftovers. Just goes to show that even these famous ancient structures can hold surprises. Or sometimes just a weird reminder of agricultural practices from millennia ago.
Okay, so let's just indulge for a moment, purely speculatively, based on the ideas mentioned in the sources. If, and it's a big if against all the expert skepticism, there is something significant down there beyond natural formations. What could it potentially represent? What are the ideas?
Well, the team's own speculation, as mentioned in the sources, connects it to ancient Egyptian religious beliefs. Around Khafre's time, there seemed to have been a developing emphasis on the god Osiris.
Osiris, god of the underworld.
Exactly. Associated with the underworld and the afterlife journey. Perhaps there was a slight shift in focus from the sun god Ra, who was maybe more dominant earlier. The team suggests these deep shafts, if real, could be related to beliefs about accessing the underworld, or perhaps facilitating the pharaoh's spiritual transition in some way.
So kind of like how maybe our holiday traditions evolve over generations, ancient beliefs and practices also changed and influenced their monumental architecture.
That's a decent analogy, yeah. The purpose of such structures, if they are indeed man-made and exist at that crazy depth, might be tied to these evolving spiritual concepts and the pharaoh's really complex journey into the afterlife.
And what about those more out there theories the sources hinted at? The slightly more sci-fi ones?
Ah, yes, the theories that lean heavily towards science fiction territory. Some speculation mention includes ideas that these shafts could somehow be part of an ancient power generator.
A power
Yeah,
generator.
somehow harnessing the Earth's magnetic field or its rotation. There's also a mention of a supposed Princeton study from 2025 about generating electricity with a spinning coil, though its existence couldn't actually be confirmed in the sources, and frankly, sounds like something maybe Elon Musk might tweet about at 2 a.m. after too much caffeine.
Definitely filing those under requires significantly more evidence than currently exists. Maybe a lot more.
Absolutely. For now, those are firmly in the realm of pure speculation and, yeah, sci-fi dreams. As the experts suggest, the most probable explanation, even if something unexpected is detected at depth by some method in the future, would still most likely be natural geology complex, cave systems, fissures, other formations, rather than a colossal artificial structure or, an ancient pyramid-powered Tesla coil.
This whole story, though, whether it turns out to be true, partially true, or just a fascinating footnote, it really highlights something fundamental about the pyramids themselves, doesn't it?
It really does. The pyramids remain these incredible, enduring puzzles. They were built by a civilization capable of truly astounding feats of engineering, labor, and organization. And every discovery, even a controversial or debated claim like this one, serves as a potent reminder of just how much we still don't know about them.
They truly are like these giant 4,500-year-old escape rooms, constantly revealing just enough to keep us guessing. And this potential discovery, it's currently stuck in a peculiar kind of limbo, isn't it?
That's a perfect way to put it. The current situation, based on the sources, is basically the team wanting permission from Egyptian authorities to conduct more invasive studies, perhaps drilling, to try and physically verify what their tech suggests is down there.
Right.
But Egypt is, understandably, hesitant to grant those permissions without much more compelling evidence than deep-penetrating radar claims that seem to strain known physics.
So the discovery, such as it is right now, is effectively paused. It's on hold.
Exactly. It's like a cliffhanger episode of a TV show, but with no confirmed Season 2 premiere date. The situation could certainly change, of course. If the team manages to publish more detailed data, if it withstands rigorous peer review, and if they can potentially convince the Egyptian authorities to allow further access, things can move forward. But for the moment, it remains a highly debated, unverified claim hanging over one of the world's most famous sites.
So after diving into all these layers, the grand claims, the cutting edge, maybe flawed technology, the ancient history, the skeptical experts, and yeah, that little touch of UFO intrigue, what's the key takeaway here for you, the listener?
Well, is there a hidden world beneath the Khafre Pyramid? Perhaps even a lost city or the fabled Hall of Records just waiting to be unearthed? Or is this more likely a case of high-tech optimism bumping up hard against the limits of both known physics and existing archaeological evidence, essentially, a tall tale spun from potentially misinterpreted data?
It really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? We've sort of seen a pattern emerge here. You have these extraordinary claims linked to ancient mysteries, relying on technology that seems pushed way beyond its known limits, announced with a lot of fanfare, but lacking immediate, detailed, verifiable evidence, and meeting pretty firm resistance from established experts and the relevant authorities.
Yeah, and it leaves you considering not just the enduring mysteries of these ancient wonders, which are fascinating enough, but also the challenges of verifying spectacular claims in our modern tech-driven world.
Yeah.
How do we navigate these exciting announcements? How do we balance that innate human desire for groundbreaking discovery with the crucial need for verifiable evidence and sound scientific methodology?
That's a question that feels almost as deep and complex as the potential voids beneath the sand themselves. Definitely something to ponder until the next potential pyramid plot twist comes along.